Today, we're diving into the story of a pivotal figure in Texas history you might have never heard of, William Goyens. This is the man who, at an absolutely critical moment, might have single-handedly stopped a war before it even had a chance to start.
And this really gets to the heart of his story. We all know about the Texas Revolution, this huge, sprawling war for independence. But what if one of its most important figures was also fighting a second, deeply personal war at the same time? A battle for his own freedom and his own dignity. Well, that is the incredible story of William Goyens.
So here's the game plan for breaking down his amazing life. We're going to start with his entrepreneurial roots, then we'll get into the constant fight he faced for his own freedom. From there, we'll cover his crucial role as a diplomat, see what happened after his efforts, and finally, we'll dig into why his story is so important for us to know today. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, his beginnings as a businessman. To really get a grasp on his achievements, you first have to understand the incredibly precarious world he had to navigate, every single day. So who was William Goyens? Well, he was born a free black man way back in 1794. He makes his way to Nacogdoches, a town in East Texas, and somehow, against all the odds, becomes this really respected businessman. What's truly remarkable is that he did this in an era where racial prejudice wasn't just, a common attitude. It was baked into the very law of the land. And the sheer diversity of his success is just staggering. I mean, he wasn't just doing one thing. This guy was an entrepreneurial powerhouse. He was running a blacksmith shop, a wagon-making business, a freight line, and he even owned a small hotel. But beyond all the business, he was known as a trusted community mediator. He was the person people turned to when they needed to settle disputes. That just speaks volumes about his intelligence and the kind of respect he commanded. Okay, on to Section 2. Because despite all of his success, Goyens was fighting this constant, grinding battle for his own freedom. This was his personal two-front war. Think about this. Despite his success, despite his standing in the community, this was his reality. He was repeatedly and legally accused of being a runaway slave. Just let that sink in. No matter what he built, it could all be taken away in a heartbeat. He had to go to court multiple times just to prove that he was, in fact, a free man. And this really shows you the two-front war he was fighting, laid out plain as day. On one side, he was a true insider, a diplomat working for Sam Houston, a respected mediator, a successful entrepreneur. But on the other side, he was a constant target, living under this perpetual threat of enslavement and always having to defend his most basic human right to freedom. So now we get to Section 3, a diplomat for a revolution. This is where Goyens' two worlds collide, and it's where he makes his most significant, game-changing contribution to Texas history.
Okay, let's break this down, because the stakes here were unbelievably high. First, the threat. Texas is already in a desperate war for its life against Mexico. Then, the danger. The powerful Cherokee Nation could decide to side with Mexico, which would open up a devastating second front. Sam Houston knew this would be fatal. So what's the mission? He sends Goyens to negotiate a peace treaty. And the result? Goyens' incredible diplomacy pays off, and he successfully gets a treaty that secures Cherokee neutrality. And the victory? Well, Texas avoids that two-front war, which was absolutely critical for their eventual win at San Jacinto.
So what happened after the war? In Section 4, we're going to see how the peacemaker was rewarded for his crucial actions. This simple statement really says it all. After risking absolutely everything for Texas, Goyens didn't just go back to his old life. No, he thrived. He became incredibly wealthy through things like land deals, expanding his businesses and trade. But, more importantly, he earned the deep and lasting respect of the political leaders in Nacogdoches and beyond. He completely cemented his role as a true pillar of the community, a status earned through pure skill, bravery, and diplomacy. And that brings us to our final section, why his story matters. What is the lasting legacy of a man like William Goyens? You can really see his legacy standing on three pillars. First, his diplomacy. It was world-changing for Texas at its most vulnerable moment. Second, his community leadership. He showed this deep commitment to the people around him. And finally, his resilience. The ability to not just survive, but to thrive against constant systemic opposition. It's just extraordinary. Ultimately, the life of William Goyens is this powerful testament to the vital yet so often uncredited contributions of African Americans to politics, to diplomacy, and to peacemaking. He wasn't on the sidelines of history. He was right there in the middle of it, actively shaping the future. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. The story of William Goyens was almost lost.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other crucial figures whose actions shaped our world does history still need to remember?